Hey, how's everyone doing? So yeah, I want to just make this video on 1040. I've already read the chapter, but the way I want to do this is I want to actually like go through the chapter like as if I'm like sort of live reacting or reading it for the first time because there's some like different thoughts that I have. But basically, I was I'm more than pleased with the outcome of the fight. This chapter, what happens. I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. I've always wanted, I've always felt that the most appropriate conclusion for at least one of the emperors is for them to sort of be like yeeted out of the fight, but not truly defeated. Um, and that's what happened with Big Mom in this chapter, right? Like she wasn't straight up like rendered unconscious or knocked out, like as we see not only in fights in One Piece, say like I don't know Zoro versus King or Luffy versus Lucci or fights in other series for that example, like I don't know Dragon Ball fights or Hakusho fights or fights in other series where the character usually ends up being knocked out or unconscious or killed or something, something in that respect, and that's not what happened here. Instead, she was more so just yeeted out. I guess in a way, it can be considered as sort of like a victory, though. In this, if you look at it from the same perspective as Shikamaru versus Hidan in Naruto, when I mean, obviously Hidan was immortal, but like he won that fight because like he trapped him. He used his smarts and tactics to corner him like in a spot and render him immobile. Um, I'm not so sure if you can really say the same thing here. I guess it's a little similar because like you're sending her, you're like kind of like Hidan. She's getting sent into a hole and there's explosives, there's an explosion and everything. But yeah. Anyway, I point is like she's out of the arc, she's out of the fight, but she's not truly defeated. It's not really even a W on like Law and Kid didn't really quote unquote like win, right? It's not like a true victory in the sense that they can straight up beat her in a 1v1 fight because as we see, after Kid's gun, like it's not really, she still has the ability to move and use her powers. So it's more so like it's a victory in the sense that ever since Roof Piece, they were trying to separate her from Kaido and you know and then splinter off that way. But yeah, that's I think her true defeat's gonna happen later in Nova. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So let me bring up the chapter. All right. So the Yoji or is this Yonji and Niji stuff. Yep. So Ichiji and Reiju and Judge are still there. So yeah, this whole damn, I wasn't even thinking about like how deep the hole that Law made was, but and I'll talk about it like soon. Um, it's pretty big, right? So yeah, like she's taking the attack. Give me 50 years of your lifespans as slaves. So then, Kid. So then, Law. I mean, I've loved Law. Like he's been incredible in this arc so far. Like honestly, he's more durable than Zoro when you think about it. Like Zoro's whole thing. I don't know if you haven't watched my Shanks theory video, go ahead and watch that. Obviously, you give me views, but and there I kind of mentioned like what or what Zoro's trait is as the first mate of a legendary pirate is like what his prominent combat trait is despite minus the whole swordsmanship and everything like what that is compared to someone like some of the other first mates of the other emperors you know and if you look at Marco Katakuri, and I'll just say here, if you look at Marco Katakuri and King, they all have some sort of ultimate defensive tactic or technique. So in the case of Marco, his thing is using his devil fruit, his phoenix fruit to regenerate and have a malleable body that can, you know, take hits and not and just have holes in it but be able to regenerate it. In the case of Katakuri, he can use what's it called? He can use advanced observation hockey to dodge appropriately, and that's an ultimate sort of defensive technique too. And in the case of King, he has an indestructible body when his back flame is lit. He doesn't take any damage. And Zoro is kind of the antithesis to all that because he's able to take damage and be able to be very durable with it. But if you look at the fight that he had with King, he really, I mean, sure, he's been like skirmishing and taking, like fighting King, like in, in spurts before we get like to the main couple of chapters that deal with their fight. But you got to remember that he took a miracle drug and he regained all of his energy back, and then we only really see him take three full on frontal attacks from King before he's like really super fucked up. And obviously like the hockey is draining like some of his energy and stamina too. But if you look at Law here, Law has just been like way more durable than Zoro. Like he's tanking armament hockey hits, as we saw in the last chapter, punches from a stronger opponent in an Emperor, which is Big Mom, right? And on top of that, he has his lead disease, and he's been using awakening, like all this, like three different at least three different awakening attacks at the end, which drain basically his stamina. So I would say he's definitely more durable than Zoro. I think that's pretty apparent now. Um, at least that's what's clear to me if these last 10 chapters. So, and earlier I wasn't sure if you could say Kid and Law were stronger than Luffy and Zoro because they didn't get any power ups until 10:30 with the awakening stuff. But given like how we can see what they can do with their awakenings now, I think it's safe to say that at least they're above Zoro, and I think they are tied with Law or Luffy, and like in terms of like that um, same kind of power level, and I think it's especially true in the case of Kid because he suffered the most, a lot of damage before this. Like I said, he's fought Big Mom's crew, he's fought Shanks' crew, lost his arm, and then he got owned by Kaido, and he's gone through all this sort of damage, and as we can see with some of his attacks now, his blunt attacks can hurt the Emperor somehow, or at least that's what it's going for. I'm not It's still unclear if that's the truth because Big Mom is like challenging his attack. And you know what that scene really reminded me of, what this scene really reminds me of, like with the whole gun and Big Mom like saying like I'll take your attack and prove like I'm better than it. It really reminds me of Cell and the Final Flash, where Cell goes Vegeta provokes. No, he doesn't. Vegeta doesn't provoke him, but Cell takes his challenge and he goes like, "Yo, I'll survive your attack," right? Basically. So I don't know if that's what he's going for here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the whole Kid Vegeta Luffy Goku rival thing. I don't know. But it just gave me similar vibes here. But especially in the case of Kid, like I said in my last review for 1039, if it's the case that he doesn't need the penetrative attacks to hurt emperors, I mean his blunt raw force is easily the greatest out of them all. It's the greatest out of them all because he doesn't need any sort of extracurricular attack or extra ability to improve his blunt raw strength. And if he does get Conquerors, if he does awaken his, or if he does advance his Conquerors hockey to the next stage, which I think it's going to happen when he's in the Shanks arc, that's just going to make him even stronger. So I think like this is definitely like the stamina issues and the amount of damage they've taken, like they've proven to be on Luffy's level in my opinion. Even though they may not have the hockey stages that he does, I mean the damage that they're dealing at with, like you saw like the puncture Willy last chapter, and like now this gun, and all the many times they're using awakening, coming back after being beaten like to near death consciousness by Big Mom, like it's all without the need for stamina regain or like eating food like what Luffy did when Karibu gave him the food. I think it's all clear that stamina wise and probably energy wise and durability wise are definitely on Luffy's level. So I think this has been great. Now the thing is, this R room, right, that Law uses, I'm still trying to figure out like what the different letters are because he uses K room and now R room. So and obviously I'm thinking like this probably has to do something with like something in the medical field, maybe I don't know, X-ray or some sort of like medical term that I'm not familiar with. Because I'm really trying to think of what the point of all this is, right? Like basically K room is just basically a better gamma knife, and our room is making a soundproof room. Now, the other thing here that I want to point out is I'm not quite sure if what Law is using here is awakening, right? So he has like the orb. He has the orb in his like this clear space orb like in his palm, right? And that was the same thing as K room. But our room is not an actual attack. Our room, the only thing that it does is create a space where sound is nullified, basically. So, do you really need to use awakening to use like I wouldn't even really I'm not even really sure if you can call it a defensive technique like in the same way that Jozu has diamond skin or how Kaido and Big Mom they have tough skin or even like what Law used against Kaido's Thunder Bagua on Roof Piece when he used Curtain, right? Is this I don't really even know if Arm can I mean it can be used as a defense as we just saw like in this chapter like it prevents Big Mom from calling out to her to her homies Prometheus and Hera, but it's not in of itself like armament hockey like where like where the admirals like they deflected the attack and all that. I don't think this doesn't seem like a offensive or defensive technique. It just seems like some ability, right? That can be used for different practical purposes. So I'm not so quite sure if this is awakening or not. I really don't know, right? But what I do know, I'm pretty sure what Kid is using is I would have to assume it is awakening, right? Because they're not right. Isn't that what it would be? I mean, I think they need to be a little clearer with that, right? Because awakening is see like, and especially in the case of Kid, right? Awakening, from what we understand with Doflamingo and Katakuri, is that you can assign the properties of your fruit to different objects, right? So like, Dofi made building string. Um, what's his name? Katakuri made like the ground mochi, right? And Kid, as we see, he made Big Mom a magnet, and then obviously Law has a paramecia too. So his fruit, it made his sword like basically a scalpel or like an ope ope no mi or an operator, I guess, right? So is Kid's gun also use? Is that an awakening technique? Right? Like I'm not quite sure if it is or isn't. I mean, because it's not assigning like I hate to use that word because like a sign, but it's not like making something else a magnet, right? So it's still a little bit up in the air if what they're using here is, or at least what Kid is using in the last chapter and what Law is using here is awakening at all, right? So I mean, if it's not awakening, I think it's good because I kind of feel that because even last chapter, Law was saying like this last deck I'm about to use is going to use all of my stamina or whatnot, and earlier in that in that last chapter review I did last week or however many days ago it was for 1039, I had to quickly realize that awakening is kind of like a state. It's not like a one-time use attack, right? It's kind of like Super Saiyan 3 for Gotenks, if you will. Like you can use it only for like 5 minutes and then you run out of energy. So I assume that's what's happening here with Kid and Law against Big Mom. Like they can only use it for like 2 or 3 minutes, and 2 or 3 minutes have passed. Because I remember like there was that panel about Onigashima needing only 5 minutes to reach the flower capital, right? So I assume like what has happened right now. It's happened in less than 5 minutes, right? So I think the awakening in itself works. I think it does work. I think it does work. But I mean, at the same time, if they're not using awakening here, I think that's a little more believable than using awakening because they've used, at least in the case of Law, he's used awakening attacks like 3 different times, right? So I think it's a little more believable here if it isn't. But if it is, I mean, it's still cool, right? I just think that the stakes and it's a bit exaggerated. It's not really, it's kind of like drawn out a little bit. Like, you say it drains your stamina. You have like all these different, stamina problems as we've seen in previous chapters. You've been beaten to damn near death, and now you're using an awakening attack 3 or 4 different times. It's just a little too much, right? But I mean, again, it all really it's all fine if Big Mom doesn't really lose. And I think that's the good and I think that's the good thing about this chapter because what I wanted to happen happened. I always felt that advancing your stage, like when I heard like Roof Piece was first happening, right? Before chapter 1010 when you could learn when we learned that you could infuse your attacks with Conqueror's Haki, I always felt that with the gains in power that they made, right? Zoro getting Enma and Luffy learning Armament Haki, that wasn't going to be enough to defeat an emperor straight up, at least 1v1, right? Now maybe in a maybe in a team attack, that's a different story, and obviously that's what we've gotten now. Like, Kaido's fought in all these characters and his stamina has like gone down to a level where Luffy can fight him 1v1, right? And the same thing with Big Mom a little bit too. She had to get 2v1 even though she wasn't being, she was basically clean compared to Kaido. So I always felt that just advancing your one type of your Haki to one stage was just too little or too small a power up to really say that I'm on an Emperor's level, because when you think about characters like Shanks, for example, even the admirals, they've had this for years, and they haven't been able to defeat the Emperor straight up either, right? I mean, Kaido has lost. He's said to have lost to the Marines like what 7 or 8 times somehow. I'm sure that will be revealed, like how that exactly happened. I'm pretty sure like it was the same like sort of like group effort. That's what's happening now on Onigashima. Um, but I always felt like that power up was too small, and I still even feel with the Conqueror's Infusion Haki that is too small. And similar to what Kaido said, and even like what Kin and Law were saying in this fight, they just got these powers. And compared to some of the characters that are older, compared to some of the older characters in One Piece, like Shanks and Garp, who have had these powers for like a long time and who are way more experienced with it would be more believable for them to like use those powers effectively. So you have to like create the circumstances believably where the emperors can be beaten, right? Not in a 1v1 manner. And I think that's what's happened here. And in the case of Big Mom, I'm just really glad that she's been yeeted out and not truly defeated. Big Mom's defeat is going to come when she is knocked out and you see like her whited out eyes and you see her fall on the ground and you see a character triumphantly stand over her, right? And I think we're going to get that next chapter. Or sorry, next arc, or in the arc with Shanks. In the arc with Shanks. My belief, and if you guys, if you've watched my Shanks theory video before, you guys know where I'm going with this. Shanks may be on Elbaf, and if Shanks is on Elbaf, he may have a road poneglyph because he is an emperor. And if you go back to what's his name? I forget. Monsieur Tamago and Big Mom's crew. What he was saying about the real poneglyph, and the road poneglyphs, he was saying that the emperors fight over them. So it's my belief that Shanks could have one, and if Shanks has one, Big Mom and Kaido are gonna want it because they want to revive the ancient weapons. So not only will obviously Luffy be going there to get that road poneglyph, but Kid and Big Mom or Kaido and Big Mom will too, and Kid and Law will as well. Kid will go because he wants to be the Pirate King. He wants to fight Laugh Tale, and now Law has a new purpose of trying to figure out the will of D. And as we see in the case of both Whitebeard's death and in Odin's journal, finding One Piece and going to Laugh Tale is what's going to tell someone what the will of D is, and obviously what the ancient weapons are, and what One Piece is, what happened during the Void Century, all that good stuff. So I think that arc with Shanks is going to involve Luffy, Kid, Law, Kaido, and Big Mom. I don't think Kaido is going to go down. I mean, he could be defeated by Luffy during this fight, but I don't think that means he's done and over with in the story. As we see with Lucci and as we see with NL, they've been defeated in their respective arcs, but they're not finished in the story either. Like they still have upcoming roles to play, and I think that's what's going to happen with Kaido. People I think are so beholden to the fact that Big Mom, because she is from Elbaf and she has ties to the land of Elbaf, that she's going to show up on Elbaf, and I agree with that. But so is Kaido. I'm pretty sure Kaido is going to be the same way. What was the first theory video I made on this channel? It was about Kaido's connection with the ancient giants, the same type of giants that Oars and Oars Jr. were. because of the fact that he has similar teeth and he has the horns. And in Elbaf, where just where giants live, I'm pretty sure that ancient giant and that giant connection are going to be talked about. And considering that Kaido, he has the numbers also, who are failed experiments for the ancient giants, all this stuff about giants is going to be, it's going to, that lore is going to be expanded upon in Elbaf. So it's not just Big Mom that's going to be there. It's also going to be Kaido, I'm pretty sure. And the fact that his entire crew is now defeated as well, I'm pretty sure King and Queen are going to be taken to Vegapunk because, as we saw with King, King was in the same, like, he was restrained, like, if you go back to the chapter when he first met Kaido, I think it was, 1034, 1035, like, that flashback, he was, like, in one of those labs, too, on Punk Hazard, and he was restrained, like, with those metal bands and everything, and then Kaido freed him. So he knows who Vegapunk is, and obviously Queen does, too, because he was on the same Mads team. So I don't think Kaido is going to be finished here. I think he can be defeated, but I think somehow he can be dragged away. And I think Big Mom is going to drag him away after he's either beaten by Luffy, after he beats Luffy, or if he draws with Luffy. And the other thing about Kaido that you have to realize is that Kaido, the minute when we got introduced to Kaido, and it said that in a one-on-one bet on Kaido, like he can't be beaten straight up in a one-on-one fight. We knew that Luffy was going to beat him straight up in a one-on-one fight at some point. What is the fight that's happening right now is not a true one-on-one fight, right? It's not a true one-on-one fight. A true one-on-one fight is, say, something like Goku versus Cell, right? Or some fight where the fighters are relatively at 100% stamina, fresh, ready to go, right? That's what I call like a true 1v1 fight. That's the type of fight that Kaido needs to lose in, not what's going on right now. Not when he's had to fight the Scabbards, all five worst generation members, and Yamato, all while pulling Onigashima. So, it's my belief that Kaido and Big Mom are going to be on Elbaf, which is, I think Shanks could be too, and then Luffy, Kid, and Law are going to have the opportunity to 1v1 each of those emperors. Luffy's going to fight Shanks. I think Kid is going to fight Kaido, and Law is going to fight Big Mom. And because Kid got the finishing attack here on Big Mom, and because Kid was the one, because the Killer, like, he has the smile fruit and he's like all damaged, and because Kid was jailed by Kaido, and in Kaido's introduction, Kid was the first one to suffer an L from him. I think Kid is going to get that opportunity to 1v1 Kaido on Elbaf and win. And I think Law is going to 1v1 Big Mom on Elbaf and win. And I think Luffy is going to fight Shanks 1v1 on Elbaf and win. And once all three Emperors go down on Elbaf, Law, Kid, and Luffy are going to be they're going to take their place as the new Emperors, just as Blackbeard took Whitebeard's. And that will be the new Emperor system. And then obviously, Luffy and Blackbeard, they'll fight on fucking Laugh Tale somehow. And Luffy will defeat Blackbeard there, and I feel like he'll become the king of the pirates. That doesn't necessarily mean Blackbeard's out of the story, but I think that, he'll find One Piece, he'll become the second king of the pirates after Roger, and, the world government stuff that will happen. So that's my belief. And another thing is, if you go to lore about Elbaf too, if you look at, I forget which, I don't remember which, it's got to be like an early arc, or no, it might be during some of the chapters about Big Mom's past too. The law and who is right, like if two people are having an argument on Elbaf, matters are settled via duels and fights. Might makes right. Right, like if you believe something and you want to prove like you're right or you're justice or whatever, prove it with your fists. And I think that's even more proof that on Elbaf we're gonna see these 1v1 fights. We're gonna see righteous 1v1 fair fights, kind of like what we see with Brogy and Dory on what is it, Little Island arc. So that's my belief. Yeah, so here's the misery stuff. Here's the misery stuff. I was watching King of Lightning's reaction to this chapter too, and he made a good point. So it seems like misery is Prometheus and Hera put together. I think, right? Because it's a woman and she seems to be on fire, right? Or she seems to be wispy somehow. So, but at the same time, Big Mom's hair is still on fire. So how the hell does that work, right? How does that work? I just don't. Doesn't really make much sense. Uh, I think that needs little bit more explanation. But because Law uses the silence technique on Big Mom, that's how he's able to straight up cut Misery with just his sword because her voice doesn't reach Misery, right? So I think it's like the her voice somehow controls it, which I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure if that makes a whole lot of sense too. I mean, she can like command, like she can command homies to like attack and stuff, but does the loss of voice mean her like her durability is down? Like what's happening with Randolph now on Whole Cake Island, right? Like what's happening with Zeus? Like, it seems like they're all independent, right? But does the use of like losing her voice, does that make the homies weaker? At least the ones that are in close proximity, like Misery right now, because he just straight up cuts it with a fucking like sword. Like this is like some Monet shit, like what Zoro did on Monet in Punk Hazard. And the other thing is like, I don't really understand the silence technique here. Like, what exactly is lost fruit, right? Like, lost fruit, from what we understood, was kind of like a space technique. Like, is it a space manipulation fruit? I mean, obviously it is, but can you do anything with it in there, right? I guess the way that you can resist it is like what he was saying earlier with the emperors, like you have enough hockey to be able to resist like certain changes. Like if this is space manipulation, like can he, remove like their taste of, like their sense of taste? I'm sure he could because he's a doctor, but like he obviously he dismembers them too, but like what exactly can he do within like this space? Because to make them silent just seems a little too oddly specific, but I feel like this is something that needs more explanation. His fruit, and who knows, this might be the fruit that the world government was talking about, right? Like when Zunisha showed up in 1037, like the fruit that had its name change. This could be it, and it'd be fucking awesome if it was, because I'm a huge fucking Law stan. That's my second favorite character in the entire series after Ace. I love me some fucking Law. One of my favorite characters ever. So I'm all for it. I just wish that we had some more clearer details and explanation about what's going on. So yeah, she's falling and she can't do anything. And then she says that nothing she touches makes a sound. So it's not that she can't just like. So it's like her whole body is without sound, basically, right? So I can only imagine how this is going to be animated. Like in the anime, it's just going to be like basically silent on her part. Um, so yeah, I mean, she activates the bomb. Yamato, blocks that explosion from touching the other ones. This explosion gets onto what's his name, the Kazenbo. And so thinking about this Kazenbo too, right? Thinking about the Kazenbo as well. Now it's pretty clear like what the point of this whole thing was, because I'm sure Oda, like when he had Kinemon and Kanjuro come back, and even though like I'm not the biggest fan of those things, it's not so much that Kanjuro is alive. It's or excuse me, Kinemon is alive. It's more so the explanation of like him not being put together properly, right? But again, that could be due to Law's fruit awakening. Like again, Law's devil fruit has a lot of significance, and there's a lot that you can like speak about, with it. But I think that entire thing, like he had planned for Big Mom to use the bombs here. Like this was going to be the way to quote unquote defeat her, like in quotation marks, right? Like when he had Kanjuro use Kazenbo, like this was the end game that he always had planned. I think that's pretty evident now. Um, so yeah, I mean, like again, I'm not the biggest fan of Kanjuro still being alive, but it makes for a sensible exit for Big Mom. So I think it works out in the end, but it's not the cleanest, but it works out in the end. And same thing with Kinemon. Anyway, but yeah, so the important thing to note though here is that the Kazenbo is not completely defeated. It just rapidly reduces in size. But the other thing that I really like here is her whole like her whole dialogue as she's falling about like how she's blaming Roger and like where's One Piece. You can all like you can almost like when I was reading it, I could almost hear like her sadness, like how like the vain tone that she was speaking into, right? Like she was like so close to finding One Piece. Like what is it? Like you could almost hear like her desperation. Like this entire like, just the paneling here, I think is very good. So I really like this whole speech thing. Um, and two things here, or maybe really even three things. So Zoro is fucked up, right? Zoro is fucked up, and you see him like that Grim Reaper. It really defeated him, or whatever, and he falls off, right? He falls off. Um, Big Mom is now falling into a hole that is so the deep hole that Law made, and that appears to be lava. It could be lava, right? But there's three conclusions or three things that this tells me. Well, okay, there's two possibilities, right? There's two scenes here: Zoro falling down and Big Mom falling down, or Zoro with the Grim Reaper, excuse me, and Law and Big Mom falling down into apparently what is lava. So as you very well may know, I make theories on One Piece, right? I make theories on One Piece. I have my own theories on the major mysteries in One Piece, like what the One Piece treasure is. Well, actually, I don't have a concrete answer to what the One Piece treasure is, but I have some ideas. I have some strong, I think they're strong ideas on what Uranus is, some events that happened in the Void Century, and where Laugh Tale is. And eventually, at some point, what I want to do is I want to make a video on this, obviously. And this video is going to be different than some of the videos that I've done already with just the text and the music. I'm actually going to speak because there's a lot of information for me to put out there. And for me to put that out in text would just be too long and too much editing. And it's just, fuck that. It's just like way easier for me to speak and for you guys to listen. So I have some theories about like what those things are. And Zoro being fucked up by this Grim Reaper, as well as a line of dialogue that Zoro had earlier in the King fight, as well as what Big Mom is, the fact that she's falling into lava now. This just strengthens my belief that some of the things that I believe that I'm theorizing are correct about like like Laugh Tale or what Uranus is and all these different things. And so that's one thing about this too, right? Now the other thing is this shiny light that Big Mom's. The second thing is this shiny light that Big Mom sees at the end. This may not be lava. This could be something else. If you remember what Gyukimaru and Gyukimaru said, he said this was the land of gold. Is what Big Mom looking at the end gold? Because Wano in itself has a lot of importance, right? We already to Void Century stuff. Like you have to open its borders before Joy Boy gets there. Sengoku was talking about the importance of Wano as if it was almost fate that all these legendary figures were like tied to Wano as a location, and that too that was in a chapter about the Rock's captain Roxy Zebek, the Rock's crew, and the bounties of the current four emperors, the current Yonko. Well, really, it's the Goku because Luffy is one, but the bounties of the four major emperors, right? So it also so when you consider all this stuff about like Wano's importance, the fact that Zunisha is here now, and you know about Zunisha's crime, and as we know at the end of this chapter, we find out that Zunisha is one of Joy Boy's companions, which I'll speak about in a couple minutes. Um, Big Mom is looking at this light while she says, "Does this country hold some of the answers to what One Piece is and where is Laugh Tale?" It's so frustrating. Does if this light is gold or if this light is not lava, does this have something to do with lore when it comes to the Void Century and all these great mysteries? Because again, here's the thing, right? Let's think about what Wano is, and I've mentioned this before in two theory videos already. Wano's borders are closed. So what does that mean? Wano's borders are closed. Wano, as what Kaido says in 988, I believe, is a natural paradise there are only two ways to get into Wano: climb the waterfalls with the carp, or get in through the back entrance of Onigashima somehow, however that works, right? If you have to open the borders of Wano, you have to remove the waterfall somehow. So what that tells me is that during the Void Century, if you go to the chapter where Odin dies, Odin says that Wano was closed at the end of the Void Century. So what that tells me now is that, or yeah, Wano closed its borders at the end. I was just making sure I was saying the right thing. Well, yeah, Wano closed its borders at the end of the Void Century. If Wano is hard to get into because of the waterfalls right now, what that tells me is Wano closed its borders by elevating its ground level and creating those waterfalls, those turbulent waters. That means, and kind of like what's happening with Onigashima in the sky now, with like what Kaido is, the way that he's using his dragon fruit, or what Momonosuke is doing with the clouds. I'm not so sure if it's the same power that's being used here, but somehow the citizens of Wano or someone was able to elevate Wano to create those waterfalls. So if you have to open it, then you have to naturally bring Wano back to sea level. And that's what I think is going to remove those waterfalls and make Wano's borders open. You have to lower. It's kind of like I'm trying to. It's kind of like in Star Wars how they used the like I think it was Darth Sidious, like he used like the fucking force to like lift his battleship at the end of the last Skywalker or whatever it was. But basically, it's one of those like moving large land masses, and I think that's what is going to have to happen here, right? Wano is going to be lowered somehow so that those waterfalls are gone, and then that way its borders will truly be opened. So is Big Mom, is this light that she's staring at, if it's not lava, or if it is lava, does this have something to do with that? Because Zunisha is here also. So anyway, just a food for thought thing. And the other thing, people were like wondering like what's going on like with the big room and the big explosion here. So if you go into that page where like you see the big explosion and you look at the top right, you see a nuke follow Big Mom like into the hole. So what this tells me is that anything can enter the silent room that that Law put around Big Mom. Like as we saw like in the pages previously, he put it around Big Mom, but Kid's attack from the electromagnetic gun was still firing, was still entering that space. It was still hitting Big Mom even though the bubble was around her. So that tells me like any and everything can enter this, right? Like even Big Mom, like when she attacked the frozen bomb like with her hand, she was able to push through it. So anything can enter this space. So what this tells me is like, again, I only see one nuke here, but I assume like other bombs were following her, like were following like Big Mom, like as she was falling, like other sorts of bombs. This nuke and other bombs entered the bubble, exploded, and the bubble in of itself expanded. The bubble in of itself expanded. It wasn't like a second R room, it was the same R room. It was just that it expanded to contain everything that was within the bubble. It just contained the explosion, and that's like why there was no sound. So that's the way I interpreted it. And I don't think there's any problem with that. It's just a space. It's not like a hard space. It's like what is it in part 8 of JoJo's like Jotuke's Josuke 2's Josuke 2.0, like his bubbles, like how they grow a little bit, like they're invisible, but they're not, they can be soft and like you can like pop them and like enter them, but like you can still have properties happen, right? And even here, like in the bottom right, you see like the nuke on the right side. That's what caused it. And you can see some TNT in the top right too. All these explosives followed her in. That could indicate that it is lava at the bottom. It could, which I think is impressive. You know, does that mean Law went to the center of the fucking earth? Who knows? But it does. I do have some theories about like how this can tie into like the major mysteries, like the Will of D, where Laugh Tale, or what One Piece is, and all these different sort of mysteries are. So, anyway. And then you get these triumphant, awesome looking pictures of Law and Kid. They say they defeated Big Mom, but I wouldn't really. But again, I don't really know if you can really call this a true victory because she's not really incapacitated or knocked out. I guess it's a victory if you count it in the same way, like I said earlier, Shikamaru versus Hidan, maybe. But again, I still think we're getting a 1v1 with each Emperor on Elbaf. You know, Luffy versus Shanks, Kaido versus Kid, and Big Mom versus Law. I think we're going to get that, and that's where all the Emperors will be defeated for good. Minus Blackbeard, of course. So then Yamato meets Momonosuke, and then Momonosuke has, you know, he confirms that Zunisha was Joy Boy's friend and his companion, which is what, you know, a theory that other, you know, people had, like in the community. I just think it makes a lot of sense. I've always felt that Joy Boy, if you go to Fishman Island, the Fishman Island arc, the Otohime flashback, I think it's chapter 610, I want to say, maybe. I'm not quite sure. I'm probably getting that wrong. It may be 610. It could be 6, I don't know. I'm I'm probably getting the chapter number wrong, but there was a chapter where Otohime was talking about how she was talking about Shirahoshi's power and how someone would come to guide her and come to guide that power. And you see a silhouette of someone who kind of looks like a vagabond almost, like sort of like a not so like a saint almost. And I always thought that that person was Joy Boy. And if you go to the Roger flashback to when they were anticipating the birth of Poseidon, aka Shirahoshi, and how the two sovereigns would meet, I think it's safe to say that that other sovereign would be Joy Boy himself, right? Which, for all intents and purposes, could be Luffy. But back to that Otohime thing, right? If you look at Otohime's flashback and what, you know, if I'm correct about that, the garb resembling, if that person's supposed to being Joy Boy and that garb resembling like a saint almost, or someone like, you know, who's going like on a holy or religious like voyage, like a Mecca, or like, you know, Moses or something, like one of those long shawls that you see like, you know, Christian or Arabic religious figures have, Abrahamic religious figures, Jewish religious figures, you know, maybe even monks from Buddhism, like they all have like that long shawl. I think that Joy Boy is Oda's version of Jesus. I think Oda's version of Jesus is Joy Boy. And I also think that when you connect it to his love of animals and the fact that there is a Oda's love of animals and the fact that there is a Noah ship in Fishman Island, of course, I think that Joy Boy is also like Noah in the sense that he can talk or he can communicate and has friends with animals somehow. Like he has a strong relationship with animals, maybe even the minks themselves. And I'm not quite sure what exactly this means. I'm gonna have to, you know, do a little more thinking on my own. But what this tells me is that exactly that the animals and the Christian references with Noah and Jesus are extremely strong. And there's just many ways to think about it, but I feel like it makes a lot of sense. It just makes too much sense when you think about like what Oda likes, like as a person, as an author, the way that he relates the two. And I think like this, it's not so much a shock for me as it is for others because I hope I'm not bragging here, but I think I'm better than most people at looking sort of like at like the big picture of like how Oda crafts the story. Which is why like I'm so happy with Big Mom not truly being defeated here, at least like in a definitive way. I think it's more so the fact that I can look at it like that just makes it just makes so much sense for Joe Boy and Zunisha to like not necessarily in terms of in story logic, just in terms of like the type of person that Oda is and what he likes, like what are his hobbies and what he likes and what he dislikes, you know. So I'm it again, the crime that it committed, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to think. People are saying that it, you know, it was the reason that, you know, Zunisha was the reason that Joy Boy and was unable to fulfill his promise, the one that was spoken about in Fishman Island with the Noah arc. I mean, we'll see. But I just think it just makes a lot of sense when you look at it from like a big picture, like from when you take a step back and look at it from like a big picture perspective. You look at it from like a religious perspective, you look at it from the perspective, you put yourself in Oda's shoes and what kind of person he is, just makes a lot of sense. So it sucks that there's a break next chapter, but yeah, that's basically the end of the chapter. Again, I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the way that Big Mom has exited the arc, if you will. I think her Big Mom pirates may or may not save her. The thing is, her Big Mom pirates, the Straw Hat Pirates, were the ones that were responsible for taking out the All Stars and the Flying Six, right? So maybe kids and Lost crews who have been severely underutilized in this arc, they get to fight the Big Mom pirates, you know. But I was also thinking maybe the Big Mom pirates, they could fight the world government, since they're at the bottom of the waterfall after Marco kicked them. I'm thinking that they're going to take Big Mom away. I'm thinking that because of Big Mom, they'll also take Kaido away. And I think here's the other thing. I think Big Mom and Kaido's alliance is still going to be intact. Because you have to think about the chapter in which they were portrayed, okay? The name of the chapter where Big Mom's and Kaido's alliance was proclaimed to the Marines was titled Ultimate. It was chapter 957. It was titled Ultimate because we learned about the Rocks Pirates, we learned about the God Valley incident, we learned about the bounties, right? But there was one other thing that really solidified this chapter truly being ultimate. When Brand New took Big Mom's and Kaido's posters and plastered it over Whitebeard's and Roger's. That's not saying that they're individually stronger than Whitebeard and Roger. What it is saying, though, is that their alliance is by far, the greatest pirate force the world has ever seen. By far. If you read that same chapter, you learn that Big Mom and Kaido were weaker on the Rocks crew than they are now. Kaido only got his Devil Fruit, if you remember from chapter 999, after Rocks was defeated, after the God Valley incident. After Rocks was defeated was the only time he got his Dragon Fruit, his Seiryu Fruit, his Fish no Mi Fruit, Seiryu Fruit. So they were actually weaker when they were on the kids' crew, when they were on the Rocks Pirates, than they are now. They're much stronger now than they were back then. So I don't think it's right that this pirate alliance is quote-unquote dismantled in a definitive manner after this arc. I still feel, because of the audacity justified audacity that Brainy took their posters and put it over Rogers and Whitebeard's posters in a chapter titled Ultimate, right? This has to be extremely big news. And that's another reason why I think Kaido and Big Mom, like why Kaido is also going to show up at Elbaf. This alliance needs to remain intact because they're going to want to revive the ancient weapons and look for a world of violence. That's what they're going to want. And so again, what does this have to do with the Big Mom Pirates? So Big Mom Pirates, they can fight CP0 or the world government ships that are outside unless Zunisha's already taken care of them. They can drag away Big Mom, but I think they will also get to drag away Kaido with Big Mom, and that they'll keep their alliance intact. And I also think, and I also hope, that kids like Beppo, Shachi, Penguin, Heat, Wire, they all get a chance to shine against them. I think it'd be so awesome if Daifuku, and finally Smoothie, everyone is shitting on Smoothie because she hasn't really done anything as one of the, top 3 mates of Big Mom. Like, Jack has done shit. Jack sucks, in my opinion, but he's done shit. Queen and King have done their thing. The only one who's kind of really done their thing on Big Mom's side is fucking Katakuri. I mean, Cracker did his thing, but he was beaten, pretty easily. So Smoothie has to show up as one of, Big Mom's 3 strongest characters or subordinates. So I hope that happens. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching 50 minutes of me talk about, this latest One Piece chapter. And peace. Have a good night.